Chris, welcome.
Absolute honor. Thanks for having me on.
So for 17 years, you were the president of the Beijing-based DMG Entertainment Motion Picture Group. So your job, very broadly speaking, you'll be able to tell us a lot more, was basically orchestrating getting Hollywood films into the Chinese market. Not a straightforward process. We see the end result, but you were on the inside of it, and for so many years. You did the work. You navigated the censorship, negotiated with Hollywood creatives to implement the Chinese Communist Party demands for favorable characters and plot lines, and all the rest. And it's easy to look from the outside and have opinions about it, but now we get this chance to hear about it from the inside because you're here and because you wrote this extremely fascinating and engaging book. I couldn't put it down. Feeding the Dragon: Inside the Trillion-Dollar Dilemma Facing Hollywood, the MBA, and American Business. And now you plan to make an equally engaging, I'm sure, documentary about it all. So the thing that I have found most intriguing about all of this is your personal journey of going from, believing in the benefits of collaboration and opening up the Chinese market to American films to, well, a very different perspective, and that's what I want to hear about from you. So what have you come to understand? What is it that you want to convey to the world?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of layers to that question. I'm humbled that you took a read of the book. And as you can see, there was no sort of long-term strategy in regards to why I got involved in the China business. It sort of came upon me through fate. I'm not a Mandarin PhD. I'm not a China studies expert, but I did spend 20 years engaged in the cultural and commercial exchange between the two superpowers, and it was quite a colorful story, to say the least. Where that whole 20 years, and I guess we're now on 21 years, believe it or not, it's hard to believe that much time has passed, but where most of that time was me engaged in this mission, this purpose that I think almost anybody engaged in the exchange between the U.S. and China has been over the past 40 years. And that was this globalism ideal that the more we open China to the products and services of our country, and the products and services from the West for that matter, the more China was going to become more like us, more democratic, and the more we would win over the people and eventually the government to become more like us. And then on top of that, every good, every product, every service we got into that market that wasn't there before would create new revenues for the businesses that were in the U.S. and in the West, driving up GDP, creating new jobs, and essentially bringing that aspirational quality of democracy into a communist country. That was something that I believed deeply in. I know a lot of the people that were also cogs in the wheel between the two countries were thinking the same way. And it really wasn't until October 2019 where the light was shed on me, where that actual alarm bell went off. And that was really the Daryl Morey tweet, the Houston Rockets GM, and his support for the Hong Kong protesters, and sort of the bumbling and fumbling of the NBA and various other interested parties after that occurred. And that was something that was my wake-up call and led me to here.
So what is it that tweet made you realize specifically, or the repercussions of that tweet?
Well, I mean, over time, and you read the book and we talked about it yesterday, there were various instances where people tried to wake me up to the fact that maybe we were doing something that truly wasn't American, that was compromising the values and the integrity of what we are as a nation. One of those people was my wife. The LA Times called me a Benedict Arnold of our generation. I used to get sort of nasty comments sometimes after panel discussions about what I was doing in that country. But I always believed, hey, that's because you don't understand. And by the way, I should always listen to my wife. She knows better than me. But I felt like, hey, what we were doing was in the best interests of America and our Western allies. And I truly, deeply believed that. It was, yes, a profitable way to make a living and have a career. But I also believed we were doing something good. And it wasn't until that Houston Rockets GM, Daryl Morey, tweeted out his support for Hong Kong that I woke up to it, and it wasn't the actual tweet itself. It wasn't what I predicted, what was going to happen, which was the NBA was going to get severely punished in China for that tweet. It was the fact that the NBA did not come out and immediately support Daryl Morey's free speech rights while he was on Western soil. I believe he made that tweet while he was in Japan at the time. No one came out and supported him immediately. And when that happened, there was a bumbling and fumbling of what the real argument and what the real statement from the NBA and from the players was going to be. And during that time, people started to wake up going, wait a minute, I don't understand why you're just simply not supporting him. Journalists started to say that. Government leaders here in the United States started to say that. And even myself asked the question, wait a minute, why is this so complicated? This is a free speech right that Daryl Morey has. He should have the ability to speak up and criticize what is happening in Hong Kong and support the fight for freedom. And that was the moment where I started to go, well, wait a minute. A lot of the stuff that I was doing was keeping that type of criticism quiet, that kind of premeditated censorship. Wait a minute, I'm just as bad as the NBA.
Be sure to watch the entire episode, now available exclusively at EpochTV.com, a new completely censorship-free premium subscription platform, brought to you by the Epoch Times. See you there.